Hey, hello everyone, Dr. Maiden here with another video. I'm nervous about this one. If you've seen the title, then you understand why I'm nervous about it. This has been something that's been a long time in coming, a topic that I've been thinking a lot about. I know colleagues think about it, I know students think about it, and it's something that's really important, I feel like, that we have more honest conversations about and that we have more information out there about this particular topic. So obviously, if you saw the title for this, what I'm going to talk about today is this question: am I trying, as a university professor, as a professor of political science, am I trying to indoctrinate you? So the question is, am I trying to indoctrinate you? I think it's important that we kind of shift this a little bit, because really the question in am I, or our colleges, or our professors writ large, right, our universities, do we have some kind of hidden agenda where we are trying to indoctrinate you? And we can kind of twist that if we want to, and really the question is, am I trying to turn you all into a bunch of pinko commie liberals? Okay, am I trying to turn you communist? Am I trying to turn you Democrat? Am I trying to erode essentially conservative values, Republican values, in favor of uber liberal, democratic, anti-capitalist agendas? Okay, that's really what we're getting at here. And so there is longstanding sentiment. There is longstanding sentiment for decades now that there are specific groups, namely conservatives, conservative Republicans, I should say, evangelicals to a certain extent, and as kind of an interesting subcategory, veterans, that feel that have a strong feeling that colleges and universities across the US are oppressive to them. There's a lot of data out there, there's opinion pieces, there's entire books that are written about this, that conservative Republicans, evangelical Republicans, and as this other kind of category that crosses the political divide, veterans, they feel outnumbered on college campuses, they feel marginalized, they can often feel talked over, talked down to, criticized, or otherwise demonized for their beliefs, or in the case of veterans, their service, demonized, criticized, talked down to for their service, their military service. So the first thing I'm going to say is, I am not here to deny anyone's reality, okay? Does this happen? Do you have professors that espouse incredibly liberal personal views and try and paint it as something that ought to be mainstream? They're taking their own political opinions and presenting them as facts. Does this happen? Absolutely it happens. Absolutely it happens. I'm not going to sit here and deny anyone's reality that doesn't happen. Should it happen? In my personal opinion, no, right? Even in a discipline like political science, there are ways that we ought to be teaching the science of politics, where we are couching what we are talking about in that science. It can be a fine line. It can be difficult for students to fully understand. Sometimes students don't understand that what I'm saying has the rigor of science behind it. And yet, because professors don't always pause, I'm thinking of the TikTok guy that does, we're going to do a pre-K pause, right? Professors don't always do that often necessary pre-K pause, if you will, and trace, how did I get from point A to point B? So you can say something, say we're talking about democratization, or we're talking about democratic backslide. That's our point A, that we're talking about this in class. I can say something that sounds really political or really incendiary. Let's say I want to mention something about Donald Trump and how he is a classic case of authoritarianism, and that, go into all these things about democratic backslide. If you're just seeing A and B, you can feel like, whoa, she's getting political. She doesn't like Trump, blah, 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 blah. it's often hard to understand that, well, actually what we're doing as professors is we are kind of rapid fire going through all kinds of files in our brains, right? This is our profession. We're going through all kinds of files, very rapid fire, and pulling out all the information that we know about democratic backslide, about authoritarianism, about populism, about nationalism, right? So for a student, when you're in a political science classroom, sometimes what you see is you think you see an A to B. And you're thinking, whoa, that doesn't make any sense. She's just going political. She's just throwing out an opinion. Whereas really what my brain has done is I actually just went A to F, right? And because I didn't slow down and I didn't explain my thought process, you just saw me go A to B. Really, it was A to B, C, D, E, F. And I had all that data that I quickly collated in my head and I threw together to be able to say, this incendiary thing, right, that you take as political rather than political science. Does that make sense? Again, though, I would never want to deny someone's reality, so I'm not going to tell you that it doesn't happen. I'm not going to tell you that there aren't terrible professors, not just in political science, but across disciplines that get political, that bring their own personal opinions into the classroom. Again, should it happen? No, it shouldn't happen. The other side of this that's really important is even if you have a professor that is attempting to be as unbiased as possible, your classmates aren't always going to be unbiased either. And classmates are going to lack the same kind of scientific rigor, educational, instructional rigor that a professor has, that even if the professor is able to keep things unbiased, students often don't do that. And so again, I'm not going to deny your reality that you may have been in a class before where you had students trying to gang pile on you. You had students shooting you down, students arguing with you, students not being sensitive to your position or trying to see things from your perspective, okay? Does that happen? Absolutely, that happens, okay? That doesn't mean, though, that doesn't necessarily mean that either professors as a category or universities are attempting to indoctrinate you or forcing you to change your worldviews. And it doesn't mean that your classmates are doing that. Classmates just often, quite frankly, are callous. They're callous, they have their own opinions, they get fired up about them, they don't know how to have measured, reasoned discussion about these political issues. And so it can leave you feeling like, I am an island, I am all alone, and I'm constantly under attack on this island, okay? So I'm not going to deny your reality that can happen. You know, in my own experience with my husband did one semester of college, then he went off to active service and he was in Iraq for a year. By the time he was able to get out of the military and come back to campus, he was older than the traditional undergrad student and he had that military service, that active deployed military service under his belt. He had the experience of a professor, a political science professor, screaming at him in the middle of a class, calling him a rapist and a baby killer, right? That should never happen. It should never happen. If I caught wind of it happening, I would report it as a professor. That should never happen. Again, does it happen? Unfortunately, yes. When it comes to my goals in the classroom, when we have these issues of, am I trying to indoctrinate you? Am I trying to change your belief system? No, absolutely not. My number one goal in a classroom is to teach my students how to think, not teach them what to think. Okay. And so what I do, what my role in a classroom is I am providing you with the theoretical tools and the methodological tools that you need to be a better critical thinker. You don't need me to teach you what to think. Okay. That would be a waste of time. All of the, again, going to the science, going to the research, all of the political science research shows that more than anything, the older you get and the more exposed you get to these ideas, you can actually become deeper into your polarization, not more willing to change your polarization. So it doesn't make sense that I would be sitting here trying to shift you from a conservative evangelical Republican into some type of agnostic pinko commie liberal, okay? It's just not going to happen in the span of the semester that you have with me learning Intro to International Relations. It's just not going to happen, okay? So you don't have to worry that that is somehow my agenda or I'm going to find a way to make that fit into my syllabus. It's not going to happen. I know it's wasted energy because I'm not going to shift you, and it's not the purpose of the class that I'm teaching, and it's not the purpose of me. It's not my role as an instructor. My role as an instructor is to teach you how to think critically, not what to think. But why can it still feel like college campuses are more liberal in their worldview? Why does it feel that way? And I feel like not enough people talk about the fact that we have a thing called modernization theory. This is a central theory that we look at in the social sciences, particularly in political science, when we look at how do we do something like spur development? How do we shift countries from underdeveloped to developed? How do we transition regimes from authoritarian into democratic? And we have this thing called modernization theory. And we are not bringing this up enough when we talk about why do we have this feeling that college campuses in the US are just inherently more liberal places. It's because they are. And more importantly, that is expected because of modernization theory, okay? So modernization theory 101 is saying that when you have more education, if you can get more of a population within a country, within a state, what have you, the more education you introduce into that community, you are going to see a host of changes across the community. Everything from higher tolerance and broader mindset. So when it comes to things like migration, LGBT rights, women's rights, peace activism, peace movements, higher tolerance, broader mindset is a direct result of increased education. Okay, so if you're going to a college campus, or if you're at a college campus that has multiple master's degree programs, if it has multiple PhD programs, that's extending the amount of education that the people in that concentrated area have. And so modernization theory tells us you are going to see less religiosity. You're going to, because that is a hallmark feature of increased education, is less religiosity. More respect for science is the inverse of less religiosity. Better health outcomes, higher incomes, improved democracies. Ultimately, with more education, you see improved democracies. You see respect for difference, okay? And so what's really important when we're having this discussion in the context of the United States is the fact that for decades, the US has pushed modernization theory as a way to improve democracies globally. We have spent billions of dollars on education initiatives in particular all over the world, and we have seen the impacts of those investments with more girls in school, less child labor, smaller family sizes, higher gross national incomes, right? We want this. The developed world, if you think of Western European countries, Australia, US, they often are leading the charge with this type of development. The US, in terms of our foreign policy, we want this outcome. We want education to rise up entire countries. And we have pursued this policy of pushing education and paying for education and providing education resources all over the world for decades, because we know this is what we want to see. We want to see greater education, shift worldviews to liberalize, to democratize these nations. So it should be no wonder that in our own country, we see the same effect. With increased education, with more and more people able to access college educations here in the US, you are seeing a transition from more conservative held worldviews to more liberal worldviews. It is a feature of education, okay? So in the past 25 years in the US, we have flipped the statistics. 25 years ago, you had more Republicans, registered Republicans, in college than Democrats. We have now flipped that because education is more accessible than it has ever been. So you can have DACA students in your classroom, first generation students in your classroom, for whether it's first generation Americans, first generation college students. You have such a range of financial aid opportunities, student loan opportunities, that people who never could have accessed college are now accessing college. So where once upon a time you may have had colleges that more reflected your worldviews of being conservative, Republican, evangelical, that is not the case anymore because of modernization theory. You are outnumbered. You just are, because we have provided more opportunities for people to get education in this country, okay? And I feel like that is not brought up enough. This idea of modernization theory is at work in these discussions. And we get to a point where you kind of have to say, you can't have both. You can't rigorously pursue, blinders on, laser focused pursue policies of modernization and democratization through, among other things, increasing access to education. You can't pursue that both nationally and globally and not expect to see liberalization happen, because that's what modernization theory tells us you're going to see. Okay, so you can't have it both ways. You can't put that train in motion and not expect the train to move forward. This is a complicated topic. There's a lot of resources that I can provide. I'm actually going to link below a number of different books that are political science books that are looking at this topic of modernization theory. It'll come at it from a number of different perspectives. I'll just link them all down below. You're welcome to take a look at them. But I think this is an important question. And like I've repeated a number of times through this, I would never want to deny someone's reality. Absolutely, it can happen. Absolutely, it can happen that you can, whether it's classmates or whether it's professors, that you can have this feeling of you're trying to indoctrinate me into something that I don't believe, I don't think, I don't feel. Or you are attacking me, whether it's perceived attacks or you are actually standing in the middle of a class, spittle on your mouth, screaming that I'm a baby killer in front of the whole class. That has happened. Unfortunately, I can tell you it probably will continue to happen, but I do wholeheartedly believe it's a minority of cases. It's not a majority of cases. And when we ask this question, do colleges have agendas? Are they trying to breed liberal thinking in their students? Modernization theory gives us this nuanced answer of saying it's not necessarily an agenda of colleges, but it is an expected outcome of advanced education. And this is an expected outcome that we see globally, and it is an expected outcome that we desire if we're thinking in terms of US governmental foreign policy. We have desired this outcome. We have pursued this globally for decades. And so the fact that we also are pursuing it nationally, this is just what's going to happen. We are going to see the increased liberalization of college campuses as more and more and more people have access to education. So I don't know what that means for some of you that may be watching this, that might be conservatives, that might be evangelicals, and feel like there's not a space for you at college. What I would say from my own experiences, from experiences that I know of conservative Republicans that have managed to go through the college system, there are spaces for you. There are more spaces than you think there are. There are clubs that you can join. There are extracurriculars that are designed to cater to all different types of beliefs. There are often religious institutions on campuses that cater to all religions, okay? So you may have to settle for the fact that there's going to be a diversity of option, that you are not going to be the only one that is catered to, but it doesn't mean that you are not going to be catered to because of whatever your beliefs may be, okay? As I said, I expect to get some comments with this video. I know that this is a hot button issue, but I felt like it was just important to kind of pull back the veil. This is my virtual office hours, and I just wanted to put this video out there and have this conversation and frame it within the science. Frame this within the science so that no one feels like this isn't happening. It absolutely is happening, that colleges are liberal places. But it's the why. Why are they happening? What is the reason for it? That's what I'm trying to nuance with this video, okay? Let me know if you have any questions, any comments, comment down below. I'll try and get to them as I can, and look forward to a lot more content from me this fall. I have a whole range of videos I'm going to be posting, and I look forward to seeing more of you.